July 1348. The solar smells like rancid mutton and wet dog. Lord Thomas is cackling. Seriously. He's elbow deep in stewed eels, cracking jokes about his wife's dramatic screaming echoing through the floorboards. To him, labor is just a noisy inconvenience, a woman's tax. He's more worried about the fungal rot in his falcon's wing than the girl dying upstairs in sweat-soaked straw. It's funny. A riot. Wait, no, it's sickening. Right up until the nursery goes dead silent. God, they were callous. Truly. It's mid-July. The Gloucestershire heat is a physical weight, pressing the smell of stagnant moat water and sun-baked horse manure through every crack in the castle masonry. You have to understand the geography of this misery. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a stone box. A vertical hierarchy where the higher you go, the thinner the air and the thicker the ego. Lord Thomas sits in the great hall. It's a cavernous space, draped in tapestries that haven't been beaten for dust since the last coronation. They're heavy with the grease of 1,000 communal dinners. This is the setup, the 1348 status quo. Thomas believes he is the center of a clockwork universe. To him, the peasants in the fields are just bipedal cattle. His hounds? They get better treatment. He'll actually get up to check a paw for a thorn. But the human beings under his roof? They're functional hardware. Wait, let me rephrase that. They are disposable hardware. He's currently obsessed with a new shipment of French wine, sour, metallic stuff that tastes like pennies and vinegar, while his wife, Eleanor, is upstairs. She's 19, maybe 20. This is her third attempt at an heir. The first two? One was a shriveling, the other just never breathed. Thomas didn't cry. He just complained about the cost of the tiny wooden coffins.
The social contract in 1348 was a joke, written in Latin that nobody could read. Thomas provides protection, meaning he doesn't let the neighbor lord burn your barn, and in exchange, everyone else gives him their lives. Literally. Their calories, their labor, their dignity. He views the screams from the solar as a mechanical byproduct of production, like the grinding of a millstone. You don't sympathize with the millstone when it groans under the grain, right? That's his logic. It's warped. It's grotesque, and it's about to backfire spectacularly. Because while he's laughing and picking his teeth with a splinter of pine, the world outside is changing. The air is getting weird, but he doesn't see it. He's too busy being the king of his own little rotting hill. Truly pathetic. But hey, that's the 14th century for you. High fashion, low empathy, and a complete lack of basic hygiene. Let's look at the nursery, or what passes for one. It's cold, damp, a death trap disguised as a cradle. Thomas thinks he's winning. He isn't. Not even close. The nursery is at the top of the North Tower. Why? Because the wind howls there. It's the purest air, or so the local physician, a man who once tried to cure a toothache by tying a dead toad to a patient's neck, claims. It's freezing. The walls are sweating. Not metaphorically. Thick, gray beads of condensation crawl down the stones like slow-motion slugs. The floor is covered in rushes. If you've never smelled old rushes, count yourself lucky. It's a layer of dried grass meant to be a carpet, but in a 1348 manor house, it's really just a subterranean ecosystem. There's spilled ale from 3 months ago, dog hair, bits of bone, and probably a few mummified mice living under the top layer. And Eleanor is there, shivering. She's lying on a bed that's mostly straw and skepticism. The midwife is a woman named Agnes who hasn't washed her hands since the last harvest. Agnes thinks the best way to help a woman in labor is to shout psalms at her abdomen and occasionally splash her with holy water that looks suspiciously like pond runoff. Thomas? He's downstairs.
He's in the great hall, leaning back in a chair carved from oak that's harder than his heart. He's got his feet up. He's throwing bits of gristle to a deerhound named Bran. He loves that dog. He spent 4 gold pieces on a leather collar for Bran, studded with silver. For Eleanor, he bought a prayer book she can't read. She's making a lot of noise today, Thomas remarks, grinning at his cousin, a greasy man named Guy. Guy snickers. He's drinking the penny vinegar wine. Women, they love the drama, don't they? My mother used to say the scream is just the soul making room for the sun. They laugh, a loud, wet, booming sound that echoes up the spiral staircase. It's a joke to them. The pain, the literal tearing of flesh. To Thomas, Eleanor's agony is just a noisy tax he has to pay to get a miniature version of himself. He's not worried. Why would he be? He's a lord. God is on his side. The stars are aligned. He's got the land, the title, and a dog that can catch a hare in 30 seconds flat. He's winning. Or he thinks he is. Wait, if you're enjoying this dive into the absolute dumpster fire that was the 14th century, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Join the Rhodes crew. We talk about the stuff your history teacher was too scared or too bored to mention. It helps the channel, and it keeps the stories coming. Anyway, back to the mess. The baby arrives at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. It's a boy. Thomas is ecstatic. Not because he loves the child, he hasn't even seen it yet, but because it means his lineage is secure. He orders a cask of the slightly better wine to be opened. He doesn't go upstairs. It's women's work up there. Blood and towels and tears. Gross. He'd rather stay by the fire and talk about the price of wool. But here's the thing about 1348. Neglect isn't just a mood. It's a death sentence. The nursery is drafty, I told you that. But Thomas, in his infinite, arrogant wisdom, refused to pay for the extra charcoal for the brazier in the North Tower. It builds character, he told the steward. The boy needs to be tempered like steel. Can't have him soft. The boy is 6 hours old. He's not steel. He's a fragile collection of cells and hope, wrapped in linen that was washed in the same stream where the tanneries dumped their lye. Eleanor is gray-faced. She's bleeding too much. Agnes, the midwife, is treating her by placing a heavy iron key on her chest to lock the humors. Spoiler, it doesn't work. Eleanor is whispering for water. Thomas is downstairs telling a story about the time he fell off a horse and didn't cry. The contrast is nauseating. Downstairs, the crackle of seasoned logs, the scent of roasting boar, the warmth of communal arrogance. Upstairs, the smell of iron, the bite of the midnight frost, the sound of a newborn whose lungs are already struggling against the damp. By the 3rd day, the heir has a cough. It's a tiny sound, like a dry leaf scratching against a window pane. Thomas finally deigns to visit. He walks in, smelling of horses and ego. He looks at the cradle. He looks at Eleanor, who looks like a ghost that's forgotten how to haunt. He's small, Thomas says. It's an accusation.
He's cold, Thomas, Eleanor whispers. Her voice is a thread. The window, the latch is broken. The wind comes right through the tapestry. Thomas waves a hand. Nonsense. The boy needs air. You're coddling him. My father used to say that a child raised in heat grows up to be a coward. Do you want a coward for a son?" He doesn't wait for an answer. He's already bored. He notices a smudge of soot on his silk tunic and spends more time fretting over that than the blue tint on his son's fingernails. He leaves. He goes to check on his falcons. The falcons get a heated mews. They get fresh meat meticulously sliced. They get leather hoods to keep them calm. Thomas spends 3 hours watching a young hawk circle the meadow. He's proud of that bird. It obeys him. It's an extension of his power. The heir? The heir is just an insurance policy. And Thomas thinks the policy is already paid in full. He's wrong. That night, the temperature drops. A frost creeps over the castle, turning the sweat on the nursery walls into a thin, glittering skin of ice. The fire in the brazier flickers out because the servant in charge of the wood followed Thomas's lead. If the Lord doesn't care, why should the stable boy? The baby stops crying. Usually that's a relief for a tired mother. But Eleanor isn't just tired. She's terrified. She reaches out with a hand that feels like it's made of parchment. She touches the cradle. It's silent. The silence in a 1348 castle is heavy. It's not like today. No hum of a refrigerator, no distant traffic, just the wind and the sound of your own heart failing. Thomas is woken up at dawn, not by the sun, but by a frantic steward. The heir is dead. Thomas sits up in his bed, lavish, velvet-draped, warm. He's annoyed. He's actually annoyed. "How?" he demands. "I gave her everything. A roof, a name, a midwife." He walks to the nursery. He doesn't cry. He looks at the small, still bundle, and his first thought, his actual, honest-to-God first thought, is about the cost of the funeral. And then he blames Eleanor. "You let him catch a chill," he says, standing over her. She doesn't even look at him. She's staring at the broken latch on the window, the one he wouldn't fix, the one that let the 14th century's cruelty whistle right into the room. Thomas turns on his heel. He's got things to do. He needs to order a new shipment of wine. He needs to check on Bran the dog. Life goes on, right? He's the center of the universe. Except the air is getting weird. In the village, 3 miles away, a merchant just arrived from the coast. He's got a cough. He's got a fever. And he's got a few fleas hitching a ride in the seams of his coat. Thomas thinks he lost an heir to bad luck. He doesn't realize he's about to lose his entire world to a reality he spent his whole life ignoring. He thinks he's the master of the castle, but the castle is a tomb, and he's the one who locked the door. July 1348. The heat is a physical weight, pressing the smell of the tanneries and the open gutters right up against the castle's impenetrable walls. Thomas is in the solar, nursing a goblet of thin, sour wine. He's staring at a tapestry. Stags and hounds. He likes the hounds. One of them, a lanky beast named Bran, is whimpering in the corner. "Shut that dog up," Thomas barks. But the dog isn't hungry. He's shivering. In July. Then comes the sound. A cart, rattling over the uneven stones of the courtyard. It's too late for a delivery, too early for the tithes. Thomas goes to the window. He looks down. The merchant from the village, the one with the cough, is in the back of the cart, or what's left of him. He looks like a discarded pile of wet rags, except the rags are leaking. Wait. No, that's not right. His skin, it's purple. No, black. Like someone spilled ink under the surface and forgot to clean it up. And then the steward, the guy who told Thomas the baby was dead, he reaches down to move the body. He stumbles. He clutches his throat. He's making this wet, rattling noise, like a drain backing up. Thomas laughs. It's a dry, ugly sound. Drunkard, he mutters. But he stops, because he feels it. A tingle, right under his jaw. He reaches up. His fingers, thick, pampered, arrogant fingers, touch something hard. A lump, the size of a walnut, hot, pulsing. It's the God's token. That's what they called it. What a joke. God wasn't sending tokens. He was sending an eviction notice. The castle isn't a fortress anymore. It's a petri dish.
Thomas looks at his hands. They're shaking. He looks at Eleanor. She's standing in the doorway, her face a mask of cold, white marble. She sees the lump. She sees the sweat. She doesn't move to help. Why would she? He didn't fix the window. He didn't care about the heir. Suddenly the gold on the table looks like yellow dirt. The velvet feels like sandpaper. The king of the manor is just another piece of meat waiting to rot. It's happening. The great dying. And it doesn't give a damn about his lineage. It's fast, it's mean, and it's already inside. So Thomas dies, alone, face down in a bowl of cold pottage, probably. 1348 didn't give a damn about his stone walls or his lineage. We do it too, though. Trade empathy for legacy and wonder why the room feels so empty. Power is a pathetic shield when the air turns sour. Look at your people, the real ones, before the sweat starts. Because when the world ends, a crown is just a heavy hat. Stay human. Subscribe if you're still here.